back, and I am so excited to share just a couple of stories with you. We talked about going over miracles and how miracles were so prevalent. They were always kind of in the background, kind of like white noise in my life. And I have felt very weighted. Like I feel like it's just that heavy weight that I need to be sharing it with more people. I try to share my stories with my close friends, and I for sure try to make sure that they go all but documented with my family. But let's go ahead and start with some of those stories today. So people sometimes ask me about my faith, right? And they'll wonder whether or not God exists. And I never have that wondering. Like that doesn't happen because of the ever present sense that a miracle has happened in my recent history and could possibly happen again. I mean, if I look at data and I analyze the history, there's a high probability that there will be more manifestations of miracles in my life. It is not one of those day-to-day things. I mean, I do know or have known people in my life that can manifest a miracle because they walk that closely with God, right? That has not been my experience since I was a child. But yeah, so let's go ahead. So there have been, well, I guess I'll tell you my subway miracle. So one of my funnest stories is when I was, because I'm from Dallas, Texas, right? And I had joined the Army, and this is like the mid-90s, and New Jersey National Guard had received at the time full scholarship to all the public universities. And so I had applied to Rutgers University in Newark, and I had gotten accepted. So I was really excited about going to Rutgers. And I am not, I am from a small town, but I'm from not a small town outside of Dallas. So, I mean, yeah, I was raised like in the DFW Metroplex. Nevertheless, New York is New York, and I was all but 18 years old, and I was lost. I was working in like an ESL language for GED, Adult Basic Education program, and that was running through Dallas Public Libraries, and I had to go do some like on-site visits and freshman type activities at Rutgers University. So I went ahead and I had scheduled a couple of flights out and was excited about going to New York. My boss at the time, luckily, had a close friend that she was in the Peace Corps with that lived in New York. I couldn't even tell you at this point what part of New York or what street. I could probably barely tell you that. Nevertheless, I am just pack up my bags and I go. And I go for like these like on-site experiences. And so when I get there to New York, I'm at JFK Airport, and I'm a little disoriented, and I have no idea. I was very intimidated by taking what I call the metro or the subway, right? And yeah, I was really kind of scared. Anyway, I remember having to start on a bus, and that bus was going to take me to the metro in New York to this lady's house that I was going to be staying at. And so, if I'm not mistaken, this part of the story with where I had experienced this miracle began in New Jersey, in Newark. And I had to take a bus to New York City where this lady was going to be staying. All right. Just to clarify that in my mind more than anything else. And so the bus was full of like all of these loud, kind of rowdy folks. And I was just like, okay, all right, I get it. Like I'm on a city bus and it's gonna be loud, it's gonna be rowdy, and that's okay. But like at the front of the bus, there was a young woman with a baby. And I remember just staring at her, kind of like looking at her like, okay, there's like my anchor. Like there's another female on the bus. She's got a baby. She sees me. I see her, like, got it. Um, so I had kind of leaned into her and we would look over at each other occasionally while like these other folks were being really rowdy. All right. At that point in time, we made a stop. And then two young men got on the bus. And I remember thinking to myself, my goodness, like, where did these guys come from? Because they look like they have not seen like a day of work in their life. They were a little bit older than I was at the time. So I was like 18. So these guys would have been maybe 22 to 24, more or less. And they looked extremely Ivy League, but their faces just glowed. I mean, they just had these beautiful countenances. And I'm not like one that would typically, like, I don't know if I would notice that or not, but they certainly had a glow about them. And they were just wearing like tennis shoes, maybe New Balances at the time, or like Reeboks or something kind of really that was not high end, but was like, nice. And khaki shorts, white t-shirt, very mid 90s, preppy but casual, with JanSport backpacks, and then, but they came in from the streets. They walked onto the bus. They looked at me. I looked at them, and I was like, okay, good. Now there's four of us. There's these two guys that see me. They see her. They're like, and everyone else is being really loud and rowdy and shouting and stuff like that. So I kind of always thought, I've got to map out my points, my escape, my exit. I've got to know these strategic points. My father was a police officer and I was just out of the reserves basic training. And so I was aware of my surrounding anyway. And I knew at this point, like I was going into a very vulnerable situation because I did not know anything about where I was. And I didn't have any points of contact there for reinforcement. Anyway, so these two young guys are on the bus with us and we take like stop after stop after stop. At some point, I got off the bus and they got off behind me. And they didn't say much, right? But they just said, hey, where are you going? And I said, well, I've got to get to like this address. And I don't know where this is. And I was like, are y'all from here? And they're like, oh yeah, we can get you there. No problem. Yeah, just follow us. You're going to need to get some quarters. So like, go get a Snickers or something. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll just like go get chips or something. And so, and they're like, oh, and I remember them saying, but this is going to be fast. So you got to be ready because we're going to move fast because we're going to take you there. But you're going to have to be quick. And I was like, oh yeah, like I got it. And I remember thinking to myself, my goodness, like how fast can they be? I was just out of basic training. Sure, that I can keep up with them. Anyway, so I go and I get some coins and I buy myself a Snickers or whatever, get a bunch of quarters. And there we go. These guys drop the quarters into the gate, the subway gate. Then they jump the little, I don't know my words today, but they jump the little wheel thing, right? And I'm of course like putting in coins one at a time and then squeezing my way through. And then I run behind them. And then we get on a train and then, you know, get off and make a connection, put some more quarters in, and they jump again, and I squeeze through one at a time and run behind them. And so we are repeating this probably 4 or 5 times, and they look over their shoulders, and I'm there like, hey, I'm here. I see you. I got you, and I'm running and I'm keeping up with them barely. And then I don't know, it felt like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes had gone by, and we had spent this time together. And I was thinking to myself, this is so nice of them. Like, where are they going that they would be able to stop what they're doing and take me? Like, surely they're not going where I'm going. And so they never really said much. They would just kind of, on the trains, they would sit there and they'd look at me, and I'd look at them, and we'd be like, okay. And they'd be like, all right, get off here. Let's go. And then we'd go. And so we would talk more during the transitions. And me just checking in that I'm there and them just checking on me that I'm behind them. Okay. We get to a stop. And they tell me, this is your last stop. All you have to do is, you see that stairwell, just go up that stairway, and it's going to be like third or fourth door to your left or to your right. And I was like thinking to myself, how did they drop me off outside this one's front door? Like, how would they even know? Like, am I gonna even be at the right space? Like, who are these guys? So they were like, no, just still in a hurry. They tell me in a rushed way. See the stairway at the end of right there, the exit, going up the exit, and then right there, it's going to be your third or fourth door to the left or to the right. I forgot what they said. And I just turned around and looked at them, and I was like, how can I thank you? I didn't even get your names. And they sit back down on the subway, and one of them looks at me. He goes, I'm Peter. And the guy behind him goes, I'm Paul. And then I just freeze, and I'm like, and there's a girl dressed in like Indian clothing, like from India, Indian clothing, beside us. She was the same age as we are, like in our early 20s or 18. And she looks at, like, she was there. It was me at the door, the two guys sitting down, and then the angel I'm sorry, and then the lady right beside these two guys, right? And I go, again, what, I didn't get your names. And they're like, Peter and Paul. And the girl looks at me, I look at her, and I leave because it's a rush situation. So I'm pushing on. I turn back around and I'm like having a moment like, Peter and Paul. And I turn around and I look, they're gone. And the girl in the Indian clothing looks at me, and her eyes are huge. She stands up and she looks at me like, where did they go? So she and I stare at each other into the distance until we can't see each other anymore because these two guys just disappeared on the most bizarre thing. Well, not the most bizarre, because there's other miracles, but like, it was amazing. And lo and behold, I go up the stairway, and 3 or 4 doors to the left or right, bam, was the door of the lady that I was going to go see. And I thought to myself, how in the world did they know this? Peter and Paul. And so that is my first story about my probably one of my favorite miracles, because it was with a bunch of college kids. And these two angels, in my opinion, manifested as college kids, came through, talked to me, did what they had to do, and then moved on. But the beauty of it kind of is that there was this anonymous lady at the end of this story that shared that ending, that departure with me. And she, wherever she is today, has to be telling that story too. I hope that this has served as some sort of inspiration for you, because I believe angels really do exist. In my life, they have been present, ever present. And yes, I can definitively say they do exist. And they do come through to support us and to help us. And I'm looking forward to sharing my next story with you, because I'm about to record it.